follow your heart of what's going to move you and matter to you, and then from there figure out the economics or the money, and not let something drive you just to have a job or security. Spending time on myself in the pursuit of evolving, bettering myself, learning, working through past experiences, mistakes, trauma, emotional stuff, growth, all of that. That is a core pillar. Then when I go out into the world, whether it's my relationship, my business, my team, I am a better version of myself than I was yesterday, a year ago.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, just a quick background on yourself for our audience so they kind of understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, so if I back up, I grew up in upstate New York. When I graduated high school, I was a little bit in this arena where I didn't want more schooling and felt a little bit adrift. So I had this little interim where I was helping build houses. I didn't further my education, and around that time, I was working with someone who had mentioned the military. That led me down this curiosity path. So I began. I enlisted in the service. I did 4 years in the Air Force as a security forces Raven. Got to travel the world. And when I think back to my time in the military, outside of the amazing things that I felt I did, and the connections, it really instilled and anchored some really impactful values that I can appreciate now, later in life. From there, I went on to for some schooling in nutrition, and it was around that time that I fell into the training space and the helping space, and that was always a calling with me. And if I draw it back to my mom, before I left for the service or college, my mom kind of always implanted within me to follow follow your heart of what's going to move you and matter to you, and then from there figure out the economics or the money, and not let something drive you just to have a job or security. And that implant from my mom, I credit her for a lot of things in my being, but some of that being a real kind of core tenet of following your intuition and your drive and your passion and what's going to light you up, and then from there, obviously evolve that. So that led me into wanting to help people, and I really became passionate about fitness in my time of service, nutrition, and then it became, man, I really love doing this. So then began the journey of helping that. I'm a 12-year gym owner, in the strength and conditioning space, obviously CrossFit space. We obviously met through evolving that through a business mentorship, and evolving and learning and improving skills. I've been almost what feels like a lifelong student of personal development and personal growth. One of my beliefs is to always, work and put time into yourself, through whether that's working through your own stuff, your healing. Like, we all have things, and the more we can work to improve ourselves, the more we can go out and give to the world, and be in the world. So, Cliff Note version there.
Yeah, I love it, man. There's so much in there to unpack. I was taking a lot of mental notes because there's a lot of things that I want to ask about. I think it's so beautiful, the advice that your mom gave you. And this is something that I really try to take to heart and help other people too, where it's, look, find what you love and what serves the world, and you'll figure out a way to make money and get your needs met doing that. But you will live a fulfilled, happy life. But if you just go for what pays the bills and meets your needs, but don't have that love in it, it doesn't matter how much money you make, you will be unfulfilled.
100%. I think to piggyback off the thought, it's, looking at it now, a more mature, wiser version of myself. Maybe that was something that she experienced for herself, and within her children wanted to implant this deeper, more meaningful lesson of a seed. Like, it's planting a seed. At the time, it's like, yeah, great, thanks, mom. And now, as it always stayed with me, and I can look back now and appreciate it, because I see it all around me. People who are unhappy in the thing that they do, And when you know, stay curious and you ask them, why did you get into this, or how did this even come to be? And it was about security and scarcity and collecting a paycheck. Yet that this time of 8 to 10 hours or more a day you're going to spend at something multiple times a week, where you're spending the bulk of your time, the environment not what you want, the people, how you're treated, and it's like, man, that's not something that feels, like you mentioned, fulfilling. So yes, it's scary. Yes, it's getting taking time to get really curious and clear with yourself of like, what would that thing be that's really going to light me on fire, and I would be passionate about, and I may not know how I'm going to turn that into a career that gives me security and profit and while I'm experiencing joy, but that's part of the path. And getting help along the way, making mistakes, being okay with making mistakes. How we talk, like you shared in your thing of like fail often, like being okay with that, like being okay with making mistakes and learning along the way and using it as growth to propel your journey. I think there's a lot of merit in that. There's a lot of opportunity in that. And I understand that it's probably the road less traveled because it's scary and it's unknown, and a lot of us crave certainty. And if we zoom out and say, well, what's the life I really want to live and that will fulfill me, and it will take time, it will evolve, it will progress. We're gonna, is that a thumbs up? I see. Awesome. It will progress, it will change form, you know. And the version, I'm sure you know, you can relate, the version of me maybe 5-10 years ago, what's important has evolved and expanded, and I'm sure it will continue. And just that inner knowing. So absolutely a beautiful lesson from mom.
Yeah, I think too. What you said kind of reminds me of two things. One, we all know so many people who get into their 40s who have a bit of a midlife crisis because of what you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
They realize, they look over the past 20 years and realize that they spent all this time and all this
Yeah.
effort, and they aren't where their dream, they weren't really working towards their dreams. I think that's largely because people don't go through the effort of projecting a future and desire that they want. They oftentimes just take whatever opportunities come along first without thinking about a grander plan. What's the Seneca quote? He who knows no harbor, any wind is the correct wind. So, so that really reminds me of that. So, and another thing that you talked about for me is, you know, work and effort. And this podcast is called Doing the Work, but you'll
Mm-hmm.
miss it if you don't pay attention, because what I really mean is doing the work that matters the most. And you can do things correctly, or you can do the correct things, doing the right things. And so I'm curious for you, what's the work that matters the most for you? What do you prioritize in your life?
That's a great question. First is self work. So I can explain that. And I started to recently put it into, you know, these buckets of like, I first and always have to pour into and work on myself, and that's continuous. That's a lifelong journey and commitment. From there, you know, the priority then shifts to my family, my tribe, my partner, the kids, the role model, the relationship, and those all have their own little different sectors, from me and my girlfriend to us as an entire family to me individually with the kids, and what that all means to me. And obviously it can span on that. Then from there, it's my team involved in my business. They are the lifeblood within my business. And then it's the business itself. So I'm very people oriented. If I go back to self, I find it very for me, what works well is spending time each individual day and morning, and it ranges. If I have more time, it can be upwards of an hour or 90 minutes. If I'm short on time, it could be 15 to 30 minutes working on myself. And that's a combination of reading, writing, could be some listening and observing something in terms of audio, reflecting on the previous day. In 2016, I began working with um, like a results coach, and really helped me propel my life since that point in terms of hard times, business, emotional, unpacking stuff with my dad, doing the work on self, and realizing as humans we all have patterns, we all have experiences, and some of those can shape the way that we operate, and some of those might not be uh, leading us more towards a more fulfilling life or optimism or an optimal life. So unpacking those things and working through the aspects of ourselves, um, this could be in terms of your growth. Some people could allude it to spiritual awakening, whatever like your specific realm is. But I always spend time working on myself. One of the things that really is important to me outside of relationships is communication, putting thought into words and what is actually communicated to an individual. So again, taking time to reflect on how things are said, the intention behind those things, all of that. So spending time on myself in the pursuit of evolving, bettering myself, learning, working through past experiences, mistakes, trauma, emotional stuff, growth, all of that. That is a core pillar that then when I go out into the world, whether it's my relationship, my business, my team, I am a better version of myself than I was yesterday, a year ago. And those folks, through being in a frequency, maybe uh, they themselves can take what they need to, whether that is learning, whether that is raise their own standards, whether that's self betterment, communication tools, you name it. Just it's a outward deposit of good.
Yeah, I think so many people undervalue the the um, the power that you can give to the world by investing in yourself. Oftentimes, it feels like a selfish act, but in my view, it's one of the most selfless things that you could ever do is to improve yourself to and raise your elevate yourself to the level of what you expect and can so you can contribute better to the world. And it sounds like you're really doing that work on a deep level.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I think that is a fantastic correlation that I think a lot of people can have of like, um, for whatever reason, right? If that reason is to avoid the work, is that one of the reasons? Like that could be a truth for somebody. Another reason is we have this belief of like, in my business, I meet a lot of people in their 40s and 50s who they put themselves last. And maybe that generationally was something that we grew up in terms of hard work, earn a paycheck, you know, even in the military, it's service before self. And that was a part of the value, of course, because it's something above yourself. Now, when you realize that that comes at the expense, that can come, if you don't do the work, at the expense of my health, my mentality, my emotional well-being, then how much of myself, my goodness, my best self am I putting into my relationship, which then can suffer, my business, which then can suffer, my relationships with other people, which then can suffer, all of that. So I think it's a perception shift of this work is so necessary because it's going to allow me to insert the thing that all the things heal, grow, expand, improve, think differently, um, progress. And we all want progress at a core human level. So I agree completely. I believe it's a misperception around working on yourself. Or another one is I don't have time. And it doesn't need to be grandiose. I don't know if there's a blueprint that works well for everybody. I think exploration is key. Some people, it might be starting with walking in a podcast. It might be writing, journaling. Some people, it might be something like this, connecting with another human being, therapy, uh, all of it, and taking time for ourselves. And that to me is the foundation, and everything kind of begins to stack and build off of that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up time because this is something that I work with a lot of people about. You hear this all that I don't have time to do, and you can enter blank, go to the gym, meal prep, meditate, whatever it is that the thing that's going to make you better. And my 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 take on that is, look, most of us spend massive amount of time on things that don't matter. You know, we're in survival mode because of, like you said, we're doing things for other people, you know, trying to live up to other people, you know, basically going with other people's plans rather than being in the driver's seat, owning our own life and saying, I am going to do this for me. I'm going to fill my cup first, and then whatever, you know, then I'll be able to give to other people. And so rather than being in thrival mode, we're in survival mode. And it really comes down to what you do daily, right? Like how do you prioritize your time? So I'm curious, do you have habits that you prioritize daily? You know, these are the things that you make sure you get done, uh, almost non-negotiable.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Quick thought that I wanted to add on the time thing. And this is something that I've worked with myself on, especially if I've struggled with anything in terms of telling myself the time story, which we all do. We're all human. I reframe it to, what am I committed to and what am I not committed to? Because that, at the truth, whatever you're committed to, you make time for. And sometimes that obviously has a sliding scale due to maybe my personal bandwidth. So I think being really honest with yourself, and that goes back to the self work. So that's always a reframe I put into when I time. So in terms of habits, of course, going off of the self, I always make time for that and whatever that means for that day. I look at my days, obviously plan them out in terms of to the best that I can on a Sunday, and I look at them each day. Then I kind of keep a military thing is like I keep my eyes, you know, just 6 feet in front of me. So it's like I'm not thinking about tomorrow yet. I'm only focused on today, and right now it's only with you. So looking at that, it's like working on self. My nutrition across 20 years is extremely dialed in, and that is the next pillar for me, and that is just a similar structure day to day of what I'm going to consume, and even a lot of it's elimination. It's mostly high quality lean meats, protein through that, fruits. My body has a unique relationship with vegetables, so I keep them. I have to keep them a little bit minimal, but it's mostly a meat and fruit consumption with one addition of rice towards the end of the day, that meal. And it's similar day to day. And that eliminates a lot of thinking, a lot of, roller coaster that could happen with the body or emotions or mood. And that's just a discipline, some sort of movement. That doesn't mean that's I work out 7 days a week. I'm committed to 5 days, so some form of exercise. I love to so those three are self development, nutrition, and movement are like pillars. Then looking at like my relationship, my partner and I, we have this practice where at the end of the day, she's a full time nurse. I'm a business owner. One of the things that I think is important for the relationship is taking time for each other, and we'll get together and give each other the space and silence, like she's sharing or I'm sharing, of tell me something, 1 to 3 things that you appreciated about your day or yourself, how you showed up in your day, because I don't have no idea what her day looks like in that operating room, and maybe through the challenges as a business owner and the vast array of conversations and experiences and things you're doing, she may not know. So I don't want to bring my problems to her, like, oh, I just had this tough client or anything like that. It's maybe I appreciate that I held space for a challenging conversation today. And again, more in the realm of like that goodness versus complaining or negative energy. So we do that for one another. And then we aim to also share at the end, once we're both done, one thing that we appreciate about the other. And it could be it could be, I really appreciated how when I came home, the house was, super clean and I have to think about that, or the kiss you gave me before work, whatever that is. And it keeps that importance, because again, I think if we zoom out, what's really important? My health, from there, my person, my relationship. And I don't ever want to lose sight of that from I'm chasing down things to improve in my business, or lose sight of what truly, truly, truly matters. Because I think, again, as we get older, we learn it's a lot less things. It's not social media likes or anything in that realm. It's being healthy, leading a fulfilling life, service, helping. This right here, someone might connect with something within this podcast or your previous podcast, and that is doing good work out in the world. So you contributing to that service and being a part here, like meaningful work, um, our people, our children, our partners, our close family. So those are a few things daily. And then, of course, as a business owner, there's specific kind of plugs and plays and coaching and showing up in the world. Last thing I'll share here is wherever I go, I aim to have the mentality to make it better. So that could be just with my energy, my enthusiasm, my curiosity, giving someone the space to listen, a smile. So I try to carry that energy with me where I go because you never know what someone's going through, and I would rather be bring light to a situation than anything else.